And Congressman Lawler joining me now. Congressman, good to see you.
You as well, Dan.
So, Congressman, let me begin with the war in Israel. It's on top of everybody's mind, right? Your district representing one of the largest Jewish populations in the country. This big effort now to get Americans home right now, thousands. The president moving to charter these commercial planes to get folks out and back home. That's just step one. How is the effort going?
Well, this is a discussion I've been having with the White House, the State Department, and others for days. As you mentioned, I have one of the largest Jewish communities in the country. I currently have hundreds of residents that are still stuck in Israel and wanting to come home. And obviously, they're anxious, they're frustrated, they're concerned, and we want to make sure that they are safe. And so I've been pushing on the White House to not only have chartered flights, but military air to make sure that we move as expeditiously as possible. Other countries have already evacuated hundreds of their citizens. In Israel, there are about 600,000 Americans, many of them dual citizens, but it's a lot of people. And, certainly at any given point, we have thousands of New Yorkers who are in Israel. And so we want to do everything we can to get them home safely.
Congressman, those chartered planes from the White House, that certainly is a step in the right direction, but that is just part of the equation. You mentioned those military planes flying in to get folks out. Have you heard back or gotten a response about that?
I have not gotten an answer on the military planes. I spoke again with State Department officials just the other day, and they indicate that is not an option at this moment. They are also looking at ships and getting people out through the ports. So there's other vehicles by which they're trying to help evacuate folks, but obviously I'd like this to be a lot more expeditious than it has been.
This hindsight's 2020, but should the U.S. have had a plan in place for something like this? It's played out before in Afghanistan and Ukraine for times like this to get people home. You mentioned other countries already doing so.
I think the administration should have moved pretty quickly at getting military aircraft in, especially after U.S. commercial airlines said that they were no longer going to run flights to Tel Aviv. Mm-hmm. So obviously, we're talking about days that were kind of wasted here. That frankly we should have moved a little quicker.
So what does Congress need to do then in terms of getting aid, military support to Israel at this point in time? Important to point out that there is no speaker right now. So can Congress take action?
Look, the administration certainly has a lot of wherewithal at their disposal to get assistance and aid, military equipment to Israel, and they are doing so. But obviously, there's going to need to be supplemental funding and an aid package that we need to pass in short order. So it's critically important that we elect a speaker so that we can get back to the work of the American people. But, obviously, at the moment, the administration has some flexibility here.
Yeah, and that brings me to what's playing out within the Republican Party. In terms of leadership, Steve Scalise dropping out of the race after not securing the votes for Speaker. We heard him in the open saying that people should know that Congress is doing its job. But the big question is, how can you if there's no Speaker?
Look, it's a challenge, and this is why I was opposed to removing Kevin McCarthy to begin with. You had 8 Republicans team up with 208 Democrats, including every Democrat from New York, to remove the House Republican Speaker. And I get the politics and the political gain that some thought they were getting here, but the reality is that a constitutional crisis has been created and the House is paralyzed, and it was foolish. And people should understand that you don't play games with things like this because you never know what's going to happen at a moment's notice, as we saw in Israel.
So is there, Congressman, someone now that the Republican Party is willing to rally around, and how quickly do you see a speaker being named?
Look, we have the process restarting, candidates announcing themselves. There'll be a candidates forum. And then a vote. And I think, the objective is to move as expeditiously as possible. We cannot continue to dither here. We need to elect a speaker, someone who is up to the task and able to do the job. This is not like just choosing a class president. I mean, this person is third in line to the presidency. they need to be ready to lead the nation.
Is there a name?
I'm sorry?
Is there a name?
Not yet. The candidates are coming forward and will be meeting shortly.
Okay, and that brings me to the next part, because there's a lot to talk to you about today. You and some of your fellow Republicans teaming up last week, calling for the expulsion of fellow Congressman George Santos following 10 new charges of wire fraud, identity theft. Santos saying that he, quote, pities the fool that go ahead and do that. So what is your response?
I mean, listen, we have been calling for him to resign since December. Obviously, I believe in due process. I believe in the ability for someone to defend themselves in a court of law, but he's unfit to serve. And we've believed that from the moment that these allegations were revealed against him. He's now been twice indicted, 23 counts. His treasurer pleaded guilty to the underlying charges against him. And so with the guilty plea of his treasurer, it's pretty clear what happened here. And I think, the time has come for action to be taken to expel him. The previous expulsion did not have the necessary 2/3 required, which is why it was referred to the Ethics Committee for investigation. That report is not back yet. But with the guilty plea of his treasurer, it's pretty clear what happened. So I think the time has come for him to be removed from Congress.
Congressman Lawler, I know it's very busy for you in D.C. I appreciate you being here. Pick some politics, a lot to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you.